just read it right here. So you're sort of near the microphone.
Now, how do you want to work this? Is it where you want to sitting there in the front and coming up?
Maybe I can just hover it on the side. I'm thinking of grab a couple tissues because I have a bit of a runny nose. Should I just put the basket? Do you have a bucket? I checked the bag and they didn't. So
I haven't done that wrongly, but they might have napkins.
but they might be too big. Like I really feel bad almost. Let me just grab some home. Let me just grab there's some napkins out there. Let me just do that.
We'll get things started. Basically, I told them because I knew there was going to be a police, I said, set up as many people as you can in this community. Is kind of what that's kind of where I position it. And then I know Melanie always prefers to have fewer and then set up more later, but it's easier.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Chandra Hodgson. I'm a professor in the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences. On behalf of the President's Lecture Series Committee, I'd like to welcome everyone here today who's come out to hear our third guest speaker of the series, Ms. Jennifer Hollett, who will deliver a lecture entitled When Digital Gets Political. Before we introduce Ms. Hollett, I'd like to thank all those people whose work has made this series possible. We've got the committee members, Angela Aujla, Jeff Bull, Melanie Shaparian, and Ian Gary, Humber's media services technicians who moved mountains this morning to solve all kinds of technological problems, so thank you to them. The President's executive assistant, Deborah Green, and of course, Humber's president, Chris Whitaker, without whose support this series wouldn't be possible. I'd like to take this opportunity to highlight our lineup of speakers for the year. On Thursday, October 2nd, we heard from the creator and host of CBC Radio's Spark, Nora Young, she delivered a talk entitled Seeing the Forest and the Trees, Surviving and Thriving in the Coming Data Boom. That was at the North Campus in 7th semester. And on October 22nd, we heard from lawyer, author, and president of the Non-Human Rights Project, Stephen Wise, who delivered a talk entitled The Struggle of the Non-Human Rights Project for the Legal Personhood of Non-Human Animals. That was also at the North Campus in 7th semester. Both of these talks are available for viewing on our lecture series archive. You can access that through the School of Liberal Arts and Sciences website. There is a button for President's Lecture Series that will take you to the archive. And we will soon also on that page have information about the exact dates and locations of the speakers for next term. But I'm happy to be able to announce that we do have the names of the speakers that will be featuring next term. So we've invited Dr. Brian Goldman, who is host of CBC Radio's White Coat, Black Art, and Dr. Ward Struthers, a psychology professor from York University, and Paula Todd, an investigative journalist and author. Information about these talks will be posted in the Humber Communique, on Humber TV, HSF bulletin boards, as well as the event pages of Facebook, Google+, and on Twitter using the @HumberPLS. So I'd like to welcome everyone who is watching or listening via the live stream or at the North and Orangeville campuses. And I'd like to extend a special welcome to students in attendance today from the Police Foundations program. They're studying Introduction to Politics with Professors Chris Irwin, Callie Anderson, and Matthew O'Rourke. I'm going to remind you at this point to please silence your cell phones, but we invite you to keep them on, as there is a hashtag that we've created for this event, and you are welcome to live tweet it. If you do have to leave early for a class, please exit as quietly as possible. And as you listen to the lecture, please don't forget to jot down any questions. To ask a question of the speaker, we'll have a Q&A afterwards. We'll need you to speak into the microphone that's set up over there so that they can hear you on the live stream. If you do need a mic brought to you, I'll also have a handheld one, and I'll be running around and bringing a mic to anyone who raises their hand. There will be a reception with refreshments following, so please stick around for a bit afterwards if you can. And now I'm going to hand the mic over to Sean Voisin, a student in the General Arts and Science University Transfer Program, who's going to introduce today's speaker. Sean?
Jennifer Hollett earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in Journalism and Communications from Concordia University and a Master's in Public Administration from Harvard. As a television host and reporter, she has worked for the CBC, CTV, and is a former Much Music VJ. In 2002, she traveled to Kabul to host a documentary that was nominated for a Gemini Award. Her documentary reporting from Israel was selected as the top broadcast for 2009 by Amnesty International Canada, and she won a Canadian Online Publishing Award for her street-level blog during the G20 Summit in Toronto. It was this work in the media that inspired her leap into politics, most recently serving as the digital director on Olivia Chow's campaign for mayor. Ms. Hollett has worked in digital communications since the late 1990s, when she became the youngest manager ever at Sony Music Canada, developing new media strategies for the label's top artists. She also developed a critically acclaimed Super PAC app at the MIT Media Lab, which helped to make television campaign ads more transparent to viewers during the 2012 US election. She has managed e-communications for Plan Canada, worked with journalists for human rights in Sierra Leone, and volunteered to create a youth engagement program with CARE Canada. She is a strong advocate for women's and girls' rights, moderating the Girls 20 summits in Toronto, Paris, Mexico City, and Moscow. We are very happy to have her participate in our series today. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Hollett.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's great to be here, and even just hearing that, I'm like, wow, I did that at some point. Now, my background is in television and digital, and in TV, we work with sound bites. So it used to be around 15 seconds. Currently on the news, sound bites about 6 seconds. And in digital, you have about 140 characters. So it's a luxury to be able to spend the next hour with you. I'll have lots of time to explore something very passionate about, which is the intersection of digital and politics. My Twitter handle is @JenniferHollett. You can find me online at jenniferhollett.com. And I created a hashtag as an opportunity for you to live tweet, ask questions, raise any points. It's just hashtag DigPoli. That's DIGPOLI. And I'll take a look at the feed throughout the presentation. And we also have the opportunity to continue the presentation online. Anyone know who this is? I heard someone say it. Mayor Naheed Nenshi. He is the mayor of Calgary. His victory in 2010 was an incredible victory for many reasons. He is a progressive mayor of Calgary. He is of South Asian descent, and he's a Muslim. He's the first Muslim mayor of a major North American city. And his victory was credited to engagement in social media, especially back at a time when few politicians in Canada were actually tapping in to the power of social media and social networks. So his username is @Nenshi, and I recently had the opportunity to hear him speak. A couple years ago, I decided to go back to school as a mid-career student in my mid-30s, and had the incredible opportunity to pursue my Master's of Public Administration at Harvard. And Naheed is a graduate of the same program. So one day after class, I rushed over on my bike to a lecture he was giving about his experience working in municipal politics. And what he pointed out is that he has more followers on Twitter than the daily reach of his city's newspaper, the Calgary Herald, which is really incredible when you think about it, that the mayor has a larger media audience than the biggest newspaper in the city. Now, I was really excited to attend a talk with the mayor, and it was an off-the-record talk. So this was in 2012, so I asked a question about Mayor Rob Ford and got his thoughts on the mayor. And went home, was doing my homework, and for me, going back to school with social media, the challenge was how do you get homework done with social media? So I would kind of do some homework and then take a social media break. So I was taking a social media break, and I was checking Twitter, and Nenshi had tweeted me after the lecture. And he tweeted me, he said, "Hi, Jennifer, I know you from before. You probably won't remember how we know each other, but don't worry, it's not as creepy as it sounds." So I'm thinking, is the mayor of Calgary really tweeting me this? What is this about? So I quickly respond and I say, hey, great talk today. I'm very curious. How do we know each other? And he said, well, one, I was a guest on a TV show you used to host called The Chat Room on Talk TV many years ago. And I write back and I said, oh, really? I said, which segments? He said, well, one I remember called I Have a Funny Name. And I laughed, and I guess he was a regular on the show. We had so many people coming on the show I didn't remember. And then he said that when he was a professor, he used to teach a case study that I was a part of in one of his marketing textbooks. And this was vaguely familiar to me. Well, the case study was about these guys, Before 4. Some of you may recall these guys. They look a little bit like aliens, but they were a Toronto-based pop group, and I worked very closely with them at Before4.com. And we were able to create a community with their fans and really promote their album online using online forums and chats and other technologies at the time. And a marketing textbook did a profile on us. It was many years ago in the late 90s. And Naheed Nenshi had actually taught this case study on the boy band Before 4 and their online presence. So it was a really good laugh. And I was telling this story recently at a presentation, and a very meta moment. someone in the audience tweeted, "What does Naheed Nenshi and Before4 have in common?" And Naheed tweeted back, "I know, I know." So again, just showing you what incredible access we have to an elected official, the mayor of one of our largest cities, thanks to Twitter. Now, I must admit, the story that I just shared with you is quite tame. For those of you who have heard of Naheed Nenshi and his Twitter antics, you may have heard of this story. This is very common. You know, we have trolls online, and someone tweeted at Nenshi, and warning, there's some language here, "My limp dick could do a better job running this city." Now, normally in politics, you ignore tweets like this, but no, the mayor of Calgary was up for a challenge and says, "Well, I'm away for a few days, so tell him to give it a try. P.S. Look into pharmaceuticals for the limpness issue." And this actually made a lot of news in social media and on Reddit, because clearly this is a mayor who, one, reads his tweets, right? Sometimes on Twitter and social media, you're not actually sure if the politician or the celebrity or the person you're following is actually behind that account. So it's very clear that Naheed is behind this account, that he reads his tweets, and that he's not afraid to take on the haters or the trolls or the critics. And that's a big part of political discourse, is having discussions and having debates with people who are criticizing, what you're doing. And I mean, I get a kick of how this tweet even looks up against his official title, and I just think it's great, and it's a good example of someone embracing social media, especially an elected official whose job is to interact with the public and represent constituents, represent voters, represent the people who elected him into office. Now, I chose these two pictures because these are the pictures I think that are often associated with screen-based mediums. Now, the one on your left, when I was growing up in the 80s, this is the common image you would see of like the dangers and seduction of television, which was a child watching TV and being sucked in. It could very well be an adult, but often you would see a child. And to your right, you have a photo of a young woman checking her phone, and this is, often an image that people associate with kids these days. You're always so busy on your phones, doing Snapchat or whatever it is you're doing. These are two very stereotypical images. But I would like to ask you, looking at them, what do you think the big differences are between these two screen mediums? Because in both cases, you have someone staring at a screen, clearly engaged, perhaps even in a trance. But I think there's a key difference between these two images. Yes?
One could be like, one on the right could be like looking at social media, looking at the news, looking at text messages, looking at anything. Whereas with the television one, they could just be looking at news or watching random television.
Yep, absolutely. Now tell me a little bit more. Give me a range of activities that could be happening on the mobile screen. And you mentioned looking, but what else might they be doing on that screen?
Looking up at politicians that are in their area, or they could be on Facebook,
Yep.
Twitter, on Snapchat.
Yep. And when you mention those, those later applications, there's the ability not just to look, but to text, to upload photos, to communicate, to build community, right? And I think that's the key difference when we're comparing traditional media. Sometimes it's called dinosaur media, but as someone who comes from traditional media, I get a little bit defensive about that. But traditional media and new media, and the term new media has kind of been thrown out the window because what is new? So let's say digital media is that right here, for all we know, she could be working with code and developing something, right? But she is likely communicating, she's creating, she's part of community, versus the one-way communication associated with TV. And I think that's the key difference, which we'll explore a little bit more as we look at traditional and digital media. Now, my career started in digital media in the late 90s, working with artists like Before4, Our Lady Peace, and Celine Dion. And then I made the move into television, working on that show that Naheed remembers me for, The Chat Room. I worked at Much Music. I worked at CBC. And then I made my way back into digital, working with both digital and traditional media at the same time. So I'd just like to walk through a comparison of traditional versus digital and social media. So in traditional media, we're looking at TV, radio, newspapers, and magazines. And on the digital side of things, it's all of that because TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, they're transitioning right now to digital. Plus, we have these digital tools, smartphones, tablets, laptops, desktops, and screens, and the applications that come with those. In traditional media, it's usually by schedule. So TV, you're tuning in at a certain time. Same with radio, you're tuning in a certain time to hear a program or news. Newspapers, the idea is you'd wake up in the morning, you'd have the newspaper. Magazines, a monthly subscription. Digital and social is a 24-hour stream. Traditional media, it's the voice of experts, so journalists, pundits, people who have an expertise in a certain subject area. Digital and social, anyone can be an expert, so you have experts in the traditional sense, but each of you have an area of expertise that you could share on social media and be accepted as having a strong and educated point of view. Traditional media, there is a process. There's the researching, fact-checking, vetting, but a process before something goes from an idea to actually being in print or being on air. Whereas digital and social, and there's a danger with this, it's just click and publish. That right now, you guys could see something that happens and you could videotape it or you could tweet it out and it has become media within a couple of seconds in some cases. In traditional, and we just saw this in the two images, so you have the media to the public, that flow of information. And this is the key difference with digital, specifically with social media, which is we can participate in the conversation. So not only can we speak back to the media, but we can speak with each other, and we can actually create the media. And for many of you who are digital natives, which means you have grown up with this technology, this is not a big deal, but I'm sure you interact with other generations, your parents and your grandparents and siblings and aunts and uncles. And that's where there's a lot of tension between those generations and cohorts, not really understanding how this new medium and digital media works. And I think the problem with that, and with that tension, it's because it's always changing. And then just wrapping up here with traditional media, we have the voice of authority. You know, I heard on the news, the reporter said, versus many voices of authority. I read on Facebook, people were saying on Twitter, you know, I saw that on a blog. So, you know, this is quite the contrast. And just to source this, it's from a great blog that a friend of mine, Leora, runs, a Demasked blog. But this is the transition that's taking place right now. And we're going to get into this and how it relates to politics. This here is, as mentioned in the introduction, an app I created with my co-founder, Dan Siegel at MIT. And it's called Super PAC app. While I was studying at Harvard, I had the incredible opportunity to take a class at MIT, just down the street. And I took a class called Social Television. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do one thing similar to what I was doing before, this sounds like what it was. It was a class that was looking at the merger between television and social media, but social defined very broadly. And our professors argued that television, in its very nature, is social. And that when TVs first made their way into living rooms, the people would actually watch TV as a family. You've probably heard of TV dinners. People would sit in front of their TV and they would have dinner and they would watch TV as a family. For any of you who follow a cult television show, you know the best part is discussing the show with your friends after you watched it. And we've seen that. I was a big fan of the TV show Lost. And it wasn't just about watching the TV show. It was about talking about it after, dissecting it and breaking it apart. And that's that really social element. And during a class project, and we were leading up to the 2012 US elections when I was taking the class, we were assigned to just come up with an idea, some type of social television idea. And in 2012, if you can believe it, over $1 billion, I'm going to say that again, over $1 billion was spent on TV advertising for the 2012 US presidential election. That's a lot of money and a lot of ads saying things like Mitt Romney eats babies, but that's nothing because Barack Obama eats babies for a snack. And these are the type of ads that voters in swing states are bombarded with. And I thought, wouldn't it just be so amazing if you could just take up your phone and hold it to the ad and find out what the ad was about, like who was behind it, how much money, if what they were saying was even true. So what started as a simple idea in a small class project actually turned into a startup upon graduation. So this is Super PAC app, and the way it works is you just take the app and you hold it up to the TV ad you're watching, and using audio fingerprinting technology, very similar to Shazam or SoundCloud, perhaps you've used when you hold it up to a song on the radio and find out who the artist is and perhaps the lyrics. We used that technology and we connected it to political TV ads. So we'll walk you through how it worked. So this was one ad that was recognized. It was a Super PAC, which is, I won't get into all the details in American politics, but a new type of group that can fund political ads and political activity. There's no cap on the money they can spend. They just can't do it in coordination with the candidates. So we knew that a Super PAC was behind this ad. It was Restore Our Future. They supported Mitt Romney. The ad was called Flatline. And then we could see how much money this Super PAC had raised and how much they had spent. We had an opportunity for the user to actually rate the ad that they were watching. We did love, fair, fishy, fail, inspired by that BuzzFeed kind of culture of rating. And then we actually broke down the claims, so the claims that you heard in the ad, and then you can find out more on those claims if there was truth behind them. We also had a database of all the TV ads that were running in the 2012 presidential election. We actually found that while the hook of our app was holding it up to a TV to find out more information about the ad that you were watching, that most people were using our app to watch commercials on demand and see what type of TV ads were coming out during the presidential election. On top of that, we also had a map so you could see how other users were rating ads across the US. And surprisingly, people were using our app all around the world. Our guess is probably Americans in other countries or people who are just really interested in politics. So you could see where people were using the app and how they were rating the ads they were seeing. And the idea with Super PAC app was instead of watching ads and just thinking this is a bunch of noise and wanting to tune out, we wanted to create an app that would allow you to tune in, to say what's going on. I want to find out, more about this ad and all the money that's behind it. I want to dig a little bit deeper. And that was combining traditional media, again, what's a one-way medium, and taking new technology to make it a two-way and social experience. Now, I've been doing a lot of talking, and as someone who is very passionate about social media and moving beyond one-way communication, I wanted to open it up right now and ask you, and also take a look at the Twitter feed to find out, you folks, this little reference to the Ford brothers and their use of folks, but find out about what brings you here today. What has piqued your interest in digital and political? Just would love to hear a little bit more about you and what you're hoping to get out of today's session. Okay, well, as you think about it, I'm just going to check to see if, come on in, if anyone has chimed in on Twitter feed. Anyone want to share? Yeah, go for it.
My name is Gemma, and I'm a professor here at Humber. And next year I'm launching a new bachelor program in digital communications. So that's why I'm here today, because this talk is also very relevant to what our students will be doing in a lot of their classes.
Great, excellent. I'd love to take a class like digital communications. I think one of the challenges, and I would say more so opportunities, is this is still emerging, right? So we're trying to figure it out, and especially when it comes to politics, we're really just tip of the iceberg, seeing what's possible. So that'd be a really fun class to not just take, but to also prepare. What about one of the students? Would love to hear what attracted you to this lecture. Okay, well, I'll read some of the tweets here. This is great. Lots of excitement from folks. Oh, I like this here. Elected officials should not be afraid to address all manners of tweets. So this is great. Thank you so much. I think what's really important with social is understanding it as a conversation. And that's a really different experience than one-way communication. And that is challenging and frightening to a lot of people. There's also a lot of misconceptions about social media. As someone who works as a digital strategist and a digital director, no one really knows what I do. And I think when most people think of the internet, they think of cats and cat videos. So I wanted to address this. I'm sure you all, based on like the age and demographic of this room, know who this is. Who is this? Okay, so I love this. I'm like, who is this guy, Mayor of Calgary? You're all like, Grumpy Cat. That is Grumpy Cat. That is Grumpy Cat. Any idea the net worth of Grumpy Cat? I heard someone. No? Anyone? 1 million. So Grumpy Cat's worth $1 million. And Grumpy Cat, for those of you in the room who maybe don't know and too shy to say, Grumpy Cat just looks grumpy. Like that's what Grumpy Cat, that's how Grumpy Cat looks. Grumpy Cat looks grumpy. We sometimes feel like Grumpy Cat. That's why we like Grumpy Cat. Cats are a big part of social media. We like cats. They do very well in YouTube videos. They do very well in BuzzFeed. So cats are part of social media, absolutely. But they're not the only part of social media. Social media is a very diverse ecosystem. So I'd like to just explore a few terms as we dive deeper into them. And one is, what is digital media? And these terms are always changing from online to new media to social media to digital media. And I find most people use the term social media, but it's important to note that we start with digital media, and I think this tree is a really great way to represent all the different things that are considered digital media. And these are screen-based and digital driven media. So that's everything from computer screens to tablets to emails to online communities to video. For your generation, what you're interacting with on a daily basis. So this is new technology and digital driven communications. Underneath digital media, we have social media. Social media is, at its simplest definition, a conversation. It's people talking. It's like people talking around the water cooler, which doesn't really exist in most office places, but the idea of people coming together and having a conversation. But this is confusing to a lot of people because I hear a lot of my colleagues saying behind my back, like, big deal, it's just a tweet, and like Facebook is a waste of time, and what's the point of Instagram? Not realizing that you're having communication. So even on Instagram, if you're taking a photo of the weather outside today, you're actually having a conversation about the weather outside. You're just doing it in a new way with new file formats and new technology. Now, what's politics? So you see there's a cat theme here because cats also matter in politics. This is our Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, who is reportedly a big fan of cats. Since politics is the theme of this talk, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page about politics, because I think politics has a very bad reputation, and I think it's earned its bad reputation. But I would like to open it to the room. What do you see as politics? How do you define politics in your life? What does politics mean to you? And there's no wrong answer, but I would love to hear. When you think of politics, what do you think of? Yes? Okay, forms of government. So federal, provincial, municipal, student government even. Great. What else? Yeah. That's great. Slightly annoying and confusing debates. And you're probably talking about, when you turn on the TV and you see them going on and on, you're not quite sure, what they're talking about. Absolutely. Absolutely. What else do you think of when you think of politics? Yeah. Elections. Yes, we just had an election. We just had a municipal election. We had a provincial election. Last night there were by-elections. What else? What about over here? Yeah. Different ideologies. Yeah, so different points of views. Conservative, liberal, NDP, Green, and then even different ways of looking at things. A friend of mine said to me during, actually a day after the Toronto election, she said, wow, there's really a divide in our city between people who say, hey, to the politician, hey, what are you going to do for me? Versus people who say, hey, What are you going to do for the community? Those are two different ways of looking at government. Hand up here in the front. Yeah.
I was basically going to say, like, what the, sorry,
Yeah.
what the agenda of the politician is.
Absolutely. So what the agenda of the politician is. And in politics, we never say agenda, of course. We say platform or issues. But absolutely, politicians and parties do have an agenda. And you have agendas. We all have agendas, right? Agendas are priorities and issues that matter to us. Yes? Propaganda in campaigning, yes, absolutely. Why do you call it propaganda? Hmm. Yeah, no, but absolutely. I think propaganda is a fair term. Of course, I naturally, working on political campaign, would say this is not propaganda, but it is propaganda. You have a biased source of information saying to you, this is the truth, this is how it is. And as voters and citizens, you have to question the source and know that it's promoting a party or a politician. Say that one more time. One bad picture can ruin a whole movie. Yeah. Yeah, I saw a hand in the back. Yeah. Say that one more time. Oh, protests that can occur due to politics. Absolutely. And we've been seeing incredible protests and movements growing around the world, unlike what we've ever seen before, connected to social media. Arab Spring being the most obvious, Idle No More, as well as recent protests in Turkey around the environment. That's great. So I would also like to propose that politics is everything. And I know that's a really big definition, but I think too often we limit ourselves to looking at politics through the lens of elections and the House of Commons and Queen's Park and City Hall, and we look at it in a very narrow frame. But when you break it down, politics was my hour-and-a-half TTC ride here. That's political. Boy, I thought about the TTC and the government the entire time I was here. The food you eat, that's political. The water you drink, that's political. Your tuition, I'm sure you have opinions on your tuition, that's political. Just about everything around us comes back to politics and what we want from the communities we live in and the world around us. The benefit we have living in a country like Canada is it's pretty good. It's pretty good on most days. But for any of you who come from countries of political turmoil or have families that do, you will know that politics is connected very close to all of us. So just about everything we do is political. And I put that out there because often, especially as I go door knocking, and even though I work in digital, I believe that door knocking is actually the most effective way to get a vote. People will tell you, I am not into politics. I am not. Then all you have to do is say, do you have kids? Yep. Childcare. Is your kid in school? And then they're very opinionated, and these are all political issues. So politics is the world around us, if we're using a very broad frame. And I use that broad frame because you can't then escape politics. You can't tune out of politics with that lens. As I mentioned, working with social media, there are a lot of misconceptions, and I just want to clear up some rumors about social media. Social media isn't just what someone had for lunch, but I put the word just in there because a lot of us take photos of what we had for lunch. We tend to be called foodies. It's because we're really into food or certain types of food, and we want to say, oh, this is a really good restaurant, or we made something and we want to show it off. So there is a culture on social media of people taking photos of what they had for lunch. If you are not interested in this subculture, do not follow these people, okay? So I just think time and time of people tell me, oh, I got on Facebook, I got on Twitter, and it's just a bunch of people doing this. You're following the wrong people. So there are people who just post pictures of cats, and there are people who just post pictures of what they had for lunch. If you're not interested in that, don't follow them. There are lots of people, millions and millions of people to follow around the world, and you can choose who to follow based on your interests. It's not a substitute for traditional organizing. So working on political campaigns, working on issue-driven campaigns, We know the most effective way to reach people is going door to door, knocking on the door, and making a phone call. And especially for your cohort, that is the most effective because you're probably not used to people finding you and knocking on your door. And when your phone rings, you're surprised that someone even made a phone call. People don't make phone calls like they used to. But it's becoming harder and harder to reach people who are living in condos, and due to the rising cost of living, more and more of us are moving into condos. And it's harder and harder to reach people by phone because your numbers aren't in the phone book like they used to be. So this is where social and digital gives us new opportunities to reach people. But it's not replacing the best ways. Like a protest is still more powerful than a bunch of us on Twitter saying something, right? People in the streets is still going to be the most powerful. And two people connecting, two people having a conversation always trumps, two people on Tinder or whatever the latest social app is. It's always better face-to-face, no matter what. That's human connection. But we don't always have the opportunity to connect with someone face-to-face. Social media isn't just for young people. There is assumption if you are young, you are an expert in social media. And my guess is you're all probably very familiar with social media, and you're using social media daily, but it doesn't mean you're an expert in it. You might only use a couple of applications. And as well, just because you are older doesn't mean that you don't know social media or you're not using it. And that's a really, really big myth. I was surprised during the municipal election how many journalists interviewed me for a story on social media and reaching out to young people. And I would always correct them and tell them who the fastest growing demographic was on Facebook as well as in social media in general. Any idea who the fastest growing demographic is on Facebook? Seniors? Yeah, a little bit younger. So seniors is a quickly growing demographic, but there's one demographic. Yeah, middle-aged people, especially women. And you probably noticed when your parents got on Facebook, it gets a bit weird. And that's why we see a lot of young people moving to different applications like Instagram and Snapchat and WhatsApp and other applications I've never heard about because you're not going to tell me because I'm old. That naturally happens. It is not just for young people. Social media is not a trend. It is not going anywhere. It is here to stay. It is part of our culture. There are trends within social media, but social media on its own is not a trend. It's also not the be-all and end-all. For some reason, those of us who work in technology, people think we're trying to take over, or we're saying that we know better, or we have tools that are going to change everything. And I think the problem with that is when the media covers new technology, you'll hear words like revolution. And when I worked in the music industry in the late 90s and Napster came onto the scene, that was a revolution. The fact that you could rip music and share it for free, that was a revolution. But revolution is scary. Most people don't like revolutions. People who come from revolutions don't like revolutions. They're very dangerous. Most people don't want change. I think a better word is evolution. This is part of an evolution that's taking place in the media, in culture, in politics. And it's not the be-all and end-all. It's just building on what came before. Social media is a conversation. It's a community. I'm sure many of you are part of communities that are online, and perhaps you meet up face-to-face time and time again. And it might not feel like a community, a formal community, but if you have conversations on Facebook about sports or news or politics, you are part of a community. It's a news source. More and more people are turning to social media to get their news, to find out about anything from the election to what's happening on campus. It is a tool, and I can't stress that enough. Social media gives us new tools, and it's fun. And I stress that because, and we'll get to this when we get to the political section, is there's this idea if you're having fun that it doesn't have merit or it doesn't have impact or it's not worth talking about. But I believe that you can have an impact and have fun at the same time. This is a great photo that made the rounds a couple years ago, and it explains social media. What I love about it is it's actually just a flip chart paper, and someone took a photo and put a filter on there. So I'll just walk you through. So these are all different applications, right? These are all different spaces in social media, explaining how they're quite different, because social media isn't just one thing. So you have Twitter. Let's say you have a donut. Twitter is where you would say you're eating a donut, and you would hashtag it. I mean, I don't think donut's a very big hashtag, and I come from St. Catharines, the donut capital of the world, but it's making the point. Facebook is where you would join others who like donuts, and you would like donuts. Foursquare, which was very popular for a while, which is based on geodata and geography. This is where I'm eating donuts. Instagram, you put on the filter. Here's a vintage photo of my donut. YouTube would be a video of you eating a donut. LinkedIn, you would highlight your donut eating skills. Pinterest, you would share a donut recipe. Last.fm, and that could be songs or many of the other news services out there. Now listening to donuts. And then Google+, I'm a Google employee who eats donuts. And that's just making fun of Google because they've been struggling to have their social media apps and ideas take off. And this list goes on. And again, that's the frustration I think a lot of people have with social media is how many accounts do you need? And as soon as you wrap your head around one space, another one comes up and your friends are moving to that. And it's because it's always changing. Saying that, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, I mean, these are very mainstream social media applications at this point. And there are other ones that they're going to come and go. And then they're also buying each other up. And YouTube is Google, Instagram is Facebook. But this is a great kind of overview of social media. Now, with politics, I also think there are a lot of myths and misconceptions. So let's review those. As I mentioned, politics is not just at election time. You might say, well, politicians only come around at election time, and that is true. And that, I think, is it's unfair. I think that's unfair to constituents because politics is 24/7 and it's year-round. Politics is not set in stone. I often hear from people, oh, politicians are all the same, and it definitely feels like that. But you have the opportunity to step in and actually run and change that if that's how you feel. It is not set in stone. It's also not just for old people. I think young people often feel underrepresented in politics. And unfortunately, older people, especially seniors, are more likely to vote than younger people in your demographic. But that can change. And we saw that. Look in the 2011 election, the amount of young people in their early 20s who were elected as member of parliament to the NDP caucus because they ran and because of Jack Layton's popularity. And we have some of the youngest MPs that we've ever seen sitting in the House. It's also not something floating in the sky. And I say that because I think a lot of people see politics as over here. It's over here at City Hall, it's over here at Queen's Park, it's over here in Ottawa, and not connected to their day-to-day lives. But if you look around at the issues that matter most to you, they have a connection to politics. And you'll realize that it's not something abstract, it's actually something very close to your day-to-day life. Politics is everything around us. It's a democratic process, which means it needs us. So if you don't like politics, you just got to blame yourself because we are creating what politics looks like and feels like. It's a source of power and change, and I stress that because if you look closely, like we did at Super PAC app, and you follow the money, you'll see who's interested in power and influence. And you'll see a lot of money and a lot of big names and a lot of businesses behind politicians and campaigns because of that influence. And for me, that's what attracted me to politics. I got into television and media because I wanted to change the world around me. I thought it was a great way to call attention to issues that mattered. But then I realized I could only do so much in a story that was a minute and a half on TV. And I realized that in politics, be it the legalization of gay marriage or charging 5 cents for a plastic bag at the store, that we would see incredible social change in a short amount of time versus what one story could do or what an activist could do. Politics is dynamic, it's always evolving, it's always changing, it's very hard to predict, and it's fun. And I know you might be like, yeah, but again, you can make it fun, and that's something that I'm very passionate about doing. And I would say I would give a lot of credit to actually Rob Ford for challenging the stereotype of Canadian politics. And I think a lot of people prior to Rob Ford didn't know much about City Hall. They couldn't name their councillor. They kind of knew who the mayor was, and for the most part didn't pay attention. But Rob Ford and his antics got people, not just across the city, but around the world, tuning into politics. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to become involved in the 2012 municipal election, is because I wanted to get Rob Ford out of office. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my role on Olivia Chow's campaign. This is me here on the left. Olivia's in the middle. This is at Salsa on St. Clair, which is a street-level dance festival. And Yaz, who has the bootleg shirt, It's Chow Time. This was created by supporters of Olivia's and sold online. She created a flash mob. So she put together, using a Facebook event and a YouTube video, she said, let's join Olivia at Salsa on St. Clair, and we'll just start salsa dancing on the street wearing purple. And it said in the description on the YouTube event, why? And she said, because politics should be street level. Politics should be fun. Politics should be accessible. And if you look at the ground, you could tell it was raining. It was raining all day. You see the umbrellas in the background. But it didn't stop us. We showed up on St. Clair, and we had a couple of salsa instructors, and Olivia joined us, and we were just doing salsa in a group. And what happened as a result is people would walk by and just kind of look and, whoa, that's Olivia Chow doing salsa with her supporters. And it really challenged the idea of what politics looks like and what politics feels like. And there's no reason politics can't involve salsa dancing at Salsa on St. Clair. And this was an opportunity to welcome people to the Olivia Chow campaign, show that Olivia is approachable. And dancing is a really good way. You see someone dancing, you think, oh, well, I'm just going to go up and talk to them and say hi and maybe ask their opinion or share my opinion. So working on Olivia's campaign as the digital director, I developed a digital strategy that I'll share with you. And this is the first time I've shared this digital strategy outside of our campaign office. While you're working on a campaign, and especially a campaign that's 8 months long, the press is always asking you for your strategy. Oh, we're doing a story on social media in the campaign. What's your strategy? But you would never give you away your strategy in the middle of a campaign. So I would highlight parts of this in the media, but we really only shared this with our digital volunteers. So I'll walk you through this. As a digital strategist, it hints at what I do. The point of strategy is that we're doing these things online for a reason, that we have goals and objectives, with the ultimate goal being winning the election. But I think for some reason, there's this sense that social media is just Facebook posts and tweets, and actually that's the beginning of what we do in digital strategy working on a political campaign. Digital on Olivia's campaign fell under 3 different departments. Fell under communications, it fell under field, and it fell under fundraising. Most people assumed working in digital, all we do is communications. It's a big part of what we do, but it's not exclusively what we do. So in communications, our goal was to create our own media, right? So you're going to read media articles, newspapers, radio, on TV. You're going to hear about what the press thinks of Olivia. We can create our own media. We created our own videos. We created our own news articles. We had our own status updates because we want to tell you our version of the story, right? And that's what you want to do working on any project. We also wanted to frame our message. For those of you in communications and PR courses, you know, there's many ways to tell a story. This comes back to propaganda, absolutely, but we want to frame our message and our issues on our terms. And social media allows us to do that. We also want to influence journalists and politicos and bloggers and leaders, people who are going to tell other people about our candidate and our campaign. And social media is a great way to do that because that's where those people are, right? So even if you don't care about social media, you think it's a waste of time, if you ever, on any project, want to reach journalists, politicians, bloggers, people with influence, they're on social media. That's where they are. So if you need to reach them, that's a great place to find them. And we wanted to be part of the conversation. People are talking about politics, they're talking about issues, they're talking about their lives on Twitter and Facebook, on YouTube, on blogs, and we wanted to have Olivia's name and the issues of our campaign as part of that conversation. The second piece is field. And in politics, field is what we call the work that we do on the ground. And that's everything from handing out flyers about Olivia's transit plan at transit stops. So you're coming out of the TTC, you see one of our volunteers, we tell you about our transit plan. Field is also going door to door. It's also making calls to volunteers, but it's the work on the ground. So with digital, we wanted to build momentum. We wanted to communicate the great work that we were doing door to door, the great work we were doing with our volunteers. We also wanted to recruit volunteers and supporters and voters. And those are 3 tiers of engagement with our campaign. So volunteer, highly active, giving time. Supporter is someone who's saying, yeah, I'm interested. And we had a Pledge to Vote card, an online petition of people who committed to pledge to vote. Because we found if you say you're going to vote for a candidate, even if it's back in April, you're more likely to on October 27th, which was Election Day, because you made a pledge and you filled out a form. And we wanted to move supporters up the ladder of engagement, which I'll walk you through in the next slide. And then for fundraising, we had 1 or 2 goals, you could say, which was to raise money and raise more money. 50% of the money we raised on Olivia's campaign was done online. And that's really, really high for a political campaign. And that's because more and more people feel comfortable making donations online. So I'd like to ask this room, just by, I would say, raising your hands. We'll start with communications. Raise your hand if you are likely to find information about elections and politics online, be it on Facebook or Twitter or blogs or Google News. Okay, so quite a few people. For field, raise your hand if you are going to volunteer for an organization, if you would likely fill out a form online instead of, say, calling the organization or showing up in the office. If you decided to volunteer, would you more likely fill out a form online? Raise your hand. Okay. I mention that because traditionally you would show up somewhere and say, I want to volunteer. You'd make a phone call. But more and more we found people would come to our campaign online. And donating to a political campaign, you have 2 options, which is donating online or writing a check. You can't do a cash donation. So if you were to make a donation to a political campaign, raise your hand if you would do it online instead of writing a check. Okay. So we're seeing that shift because these other options were the norm at one point, just a few years ago, with political campaigns. Now this is what's called a digital ladder of engagement, and it walks you through the strategy we used on Olivia's campaign. But this is a strategy you can use on any campaign you're involved with that requires people taking action. So it could be an issues-driven campaign. It even could apply to a business or something that you're doing on campus. So at the bottom of the ladder, this is the first entry point. My goal was to get lots of Facebook likes, lots of Twitter followers, and get people to sign up to the email list. That's my goal, right? And I'm going to be judged on those numbers, right? That's a great way to evaluate the work I'm doing. But that is where it begins. And most people think with digital and politics, that's all you're doing. That's actually the beginning. Our ultimate goal is I want to turn someone into a team leader, someone who can lead a canvas or a phone bank or host a fundraiser. But very few people are going to come into a political campaign. These people exist, but very few are going to come in and say, hi, I support Olivia Chow. Here is my maximum donation, and sign me up for 3 times a week. I will lead door-to-door canvases. I'll be a team leader. Very few people are going to do that. People normally kind of inch their way in, right? Like, what's this Olivia Chow about? Okay, I'll follow her on Facebook. And then maybe next they'll say, oh, that's an interesting post. I'm going to share that on my Facebook page. And then maybe they say, okay, I'll give you a $5 donation, right? And you're like, okay, maybe I'll go to an event. There's a volunteer training session. Maybe I'll check that out. And then maybe you say, okay, maybe I'll volunteer. And you volunteer and you say, oh, that was fun. Okay, maybe I'll volunteer some more. That's usually how most people get involved. And more, we're getting people on social media first. They're not calling the campaign office. They're not showing up at our headquarters. People are engaging online because it's convenient. It's how they're engaging with everything else in their life. A really good example of that ladder of engagement, this is me here with Olivia, is we had a Facebook pub night. we hit a milestone on Facebook, and we invited everyone in our Facebook community to an exclusive pub night where they could come and meet Olivia, as well as other members of the campaign team and other people on Facebook. So it's very similar to a Meetup or meetup.com, which is an opportunity to meet people who you've talked to online in person. But our goal is not just to get people to meet Olivia, it's to get their data. So when they actually show up, we get all their information. We get their name, we get their address, we get their postal code, we get their phone number. Because we want to make sure that they're going to come out and vote, and we're going to also ask them for some money. But this was a very successful event where we gave people who were following Olivia on Facebook access to Olivia and the campaign. Now, what happened? We didn't win. So I'm telling you, we had this great social media campaign, but we didn't win. And I think it's really important to take a look at this and break down some of the numbers. So as you can see on Facebook, Olivia had 6 times the followers of John Tory and Doug Ford. On Twitter, double. Instagram is an emerging space for politics. It was an attempt to connect with a younger demographic, but that's still kind of emerging. But it doesn't add up. So no question, we had the strongest social media presence, but we didn't see that placing third at 23%. So I'll ask the room. Any idea what you think happened? Yep. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I'm just going to repeat it so everyone can hear, which is we had a very dedicated fan base, but that doesn't mean that enough people came out to the polls and voted. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh. Yeah, that's a great point. So maybe all those numbers, maybe they weren't even living in Toronto. Maybe they were following Olivia when she was an MP. Absolutely, we had followers all over the country. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe people are younger, not actually able to vote, or maybe they're younger and they didn't vote, right? Maybe they were just following on social media, but didn't actually go out and vote. We see that definitely in the statistics of younger voters. I would argue, and the real answer is we're not quite sure. We don't have the research or data to actually say what happened. There's still a lot of pundits and political experts who are going, yeah, we're not sure what happened to Olivia Chow's campaign. I think it was a variety of factors. I can say confidently that we did run the best social media campaign, but that's not enough. No, it's not enough to have a great social media campaign. It's one of many factors, one of many things you need to win an election. I think also if you take a look at the 23.1%, in all of the polls, the lowest Olivia dipped was 19%. And I think it's safe to say that our numbers in the 60,000s, that they were in our core loyal following, right? So I think the majority of people on Facebook and Twitter actually came out and voted, but that wasn't enough to actually win the election. And I also don't think you can look at social media and say, oh, those are the numbers and it represents the general population. All you know about social media is it represents who's on social media. And you don't really have an idea of who that is until you can crunch the figures. Also, John Tory and Doug Ford didn't focus much on a digital strategy. They also weren't interested in connecting with youth. They didn't fill out a survey from the Canadian Federation of Students. So I think they were just phoning it in with social media. I think there's a pressure to, at the very least, have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. But they were hardly releasing YouTube videos. There was no sense of strategy. We were tracking actually what they were doing on digital on a daily basis. We had a team of volunteers. And it's because they were getting votes in other places. They were engaging in other ways where they were more successful where our campaign wasn't. I'm going to walk you through a couple other case studies because often when we're looking at elections, these are big, well-oiled machines. And if you just have like an idea or an issue, you might feel like, well, that doesn't relate to me. And the reality is these lessons can be applied to any sort of campaign that you're interested in or looking to create. This is NoJetCO, and it's something you're probably familiar with since the school is so close to the water. This is a grassroots organization that is fighting to save Toronto's waterfront. They are against the airport expansion. They don't want jets. They are fine with the status quo at the airport. So they have over 10,000 supporters. And this was a map they created and shared on social media to highlight that they're not just what's called a NIMBY issue, not in my backyard, that they actually have support all over the city. And I, a few months ago, earlier in the year, tweeted something about no jets in support. And I got a message from one of the organizers who said, hey, will you meet for coffee? We want to talk to you about the campaign. And I was really impressed because that's the digital ladder of engagement. So they saw me on Twitter and they wanted to get a face-to-face meeting. So I said, sure, I'd love to meet. And when we met, they told me more about the campaign and they asked if I would do an endorsement. I said, of course I'll do an endorsement. But that's how they got me involved. They found me on Twitter. They saw my interest and they said, let's meet face-to-face. And that's a great example of how you can take something as simple as it took like a couple seconds of my time, but you can see someone's interest and reach out to them and see if they'll meet with you and start building that relationship. And they could easily shake me down for a donation. I'd probably make a donation, but social media is a great way to find allies, to find other people who are interested in the cause or the idea that you're working on. This here is an incredible story. It's a Facebook post by Vince Sifani, who's a friend of mine. He was a student when he created this. A couple years ago, he was very frustrated and passionate about the Senate. And this is before the Senate scandal broke, which became a very juicy story for, again, us normally politically dull Canadians. But he created a blog with just tools online. He's not a digital guy. And he started writing about corruption in the Senate. And he started writing about senators. And he got a URL. The whole thing probably cost him, less than 20 bucks. And someone sent him this photo, and they said, we love your website. We printed up this banner, and basically they put it on, it looks like a house or a barn, which is on Highway 28 north of Port Hope, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Here's a guy, Vince, who wanted to do something about the problem he saw with the Senate. He created a blog. People started reading it. He appeared on TV a couple times. And someone, on their own, created a banner and put it on the side of the highway. Like, that's just a total stranger who did that. And that's just one person with an idea. And it shows you what's possible, again, with that two-way conversation and connecting people who are very interested and passionate about the world around them. Now, as I'm hyping up and telling you about the incredible reach of social media, it's not always that easy. And a friend of mine, Matt Stempek, who is a researcher at MIT, in 2012, he did some incredible research and illustrated it here in this graph that shows how sometimes a social media success story isn't just a social media success story. You probably recall in 2012 the shooting of Trayvon Martin, a young African-American man just walking back from a convenience store when George Zimmerman, a Community Watch volunteer, shot him. And if you take a look at the map, Trayvon Martin was murdered on February 26th, but George Zimmerman wasn't arrested to April 11th. That's a long time, a really long time, and that's because this took place in Florida, and they have a controversial law called Stand Your Ground. But I want to walk you through this because most people heard about this story, which is a very political story, heard about it on social media. And people will say, oh, thanks to social media, this story got the coverage it deserved. But what my friend Matt found is actually there was a campaign behind it. So what started in 2012 at the end of February, it started with local coverage in Florida. As you can imagine, this was a very big news story in Florida, as it should be. Then the team working with Trayvon's family started doing national media outreach. So they were reaching out to the national media, asking them to cover this story. The national media wasn't coming on their own. Then celebrities started tweeting about this, right? So celebrities with influence started tweeting about this case and the injustice. Then there was a petition created at change.org. And a petition is a really good way to get people to move up that ladder of engagement. Because by signing your name to something and joining an email list for updates, you start to become more invested and more involved with the cause. Then we have coverage from partisan cable news. And in the US, it's a very divided TV landscape. So that's MSNBC. And then you saw partisan right cable news. That means Fox. And if any of you have watched American television, we do it a bit in Canada too. So a lot of yelling, a lot of debating, two sides of the issue. That usually drives the debate. And then you had a full-blown media storm that then led to Zimmerman being arrested. But again, this didn't just happen on social media. This was a campaign and a strategy with goals that was moving up people through a digital ladder of engagement with also a mainstream media strategy. And I highlight this because rarely does digital operate on its own. And just like I said to you with Olivia's campaign, while we're really proud of the social media campaign that we ran, we couldn't win that election on our own. There are still many other factors, and that comes into play as well as looking at high-profile cases with this. And we've seen a similar effect with the recent Jian Ghomeshi sexual assault scandal as well. You've seen a similar effect in terms of how the story is playing out on social media and in mainstream media, because the two medias are working together and actually dancing back and forth. So who's this? I heard some laughs. This is Ron Burgundy, Anchorman. So for many of us, we grew up watching people like this on the news. That this is not a stereotype. This is how news anchors looked and still look in many cases. But I work with a lot of news anchors, and a friend of mine recently asked some younger friends of ours, she said, can I ask you guys, do you still watch the news? And they said, nope. And she said, well, how do you get your news? And they said, well, we get it on social media. She goes, well, how do you know that you can trust the people you're getting it from? She says, well, these are our friends. We trust them. We curate the news. We trust our friends. And then we research a bit more information if need be. So we may be looking at the death of Ron Burgundy and other news anchors as we move ahead. And as we start to wrap up, because I know people have other commitments, we're also seeing a shift not just between traditional media and digital media, but we're seeing a shift between traditional and digital politics. And this is what I'm projecting and thinking the future of politics might look like. So right now, we have those spaces we talked about, the House of Commons, Queen's Park, City Hall. And I think that will remain with us, plus new technology, smartphones, tablets, laptops, desktops. We have a political calendar and election cycle. I think we'll be moving to a 24/7 stream, and we already have in many ways in the political landscape. We'll be moving from formal authority, so politicians being elected, titles and process, to I think a more informal authority where more people are going to identify with the political process and see themselves as politicos. Right now, politics involves procedure and rules and unfortunately not enough transparency, but thanks to new technology, we're able to click and publish. We have more data than we've ever had before, as well as open source technology, so you can share what you're working on. Flow of information right now, the politicians speak to the media, or they speak to citizens. And similar to what we've seen in social media, citizens can participate in the conversation, they can speak with each other, they can set the agenda. Politicians also now have the ability to create their own media. And voting. Right now you can vote at polls, at polling stations, and in advance. But I think that the future, we're going to see more online voting. And Peterborough, Ontario actually already has online voting. And in their recent election, a young woman in her late 20s, a refugee from Afghanistan, came in second. And I think that's possibly because of online voting and getting youth support. This is our Premier, Kathleen Wynne, who recently did an Ask Me Anything on Reddit. And it was a huge failure. And I think, though, because she tried it, it was a great success. But it's still kind of awkward. The people on Reddit said, oh, you were stage managed. You know, it was all perfect and polished. You only answered 6 questions. But the point is, these politicians are trying, right? Most people still don't even know what Reddit is. So we're slowly getting there as we make that transition. But ultimately, and this is what I said when I started getting involved with politics, and it's something that really connected with people, is politics is what we make it. And digital and social media is giving us plenty of tools to make it what we want. So I leave you with today, if politics is what we make it, what will you make it? Thank you so much for your time. It's been a great session.
Okay, and ooh, just got a shock. Thank you for that talk. Now we have some time for Q&A, although I know some of you have a class that you need to get to. So we'll give you a minute to clear the room. So we do have a Q&A where we will ask you to come forward to the microphone. We also might have an opportunity to address some of the questions that might have come in on the hashtag. I also do have a microphone here that I'll be able to come and bring to people who have questions but would have an issue getting to the mic. To the next class.
Yeah, no,
5 minutes.
yeah, no problem.
Did you want to go to the mic? Sure.
Hi, I just want to say thank you for making this speech and lecture. It was very educational for me. My question to you was that at some point in this lecture you mentioned that politics is everything and that you feel that people do not like change and they do not like revolution. Well, I would like to ask you a question in regards to the protests that have been happening all over the world. For example, in Brazil in 2013 there was a massive protest, as well as Venezuela and recent events in Hong Kong. So do you feel that maybe politics is the only way to go, or do you feel that for those countries or for countries that are in need of a political change, do you think maybe the current system does not work? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think that we have the luxury of living in Canada, where the most recent protest we saw at a large scale was the People's Climate March. And even that, had a hard time getting more than 3,000 people out in downtown Toronto. But I think you're absolutely right. I think in other countries that are at a tipping point, that are fighting for democracy, it's dependent on protest. And I think those in power are scared of what might happen, which is ultimately them losing power. But I think that protests and taking to the streets and revolutions have played an important part of history. They will continue to. And I think that people will always be scared of them. But I think that's actually why they have so much impact in power, because they're unpredictable. They can topple governments. They can kill people. But they have been very effective. They take a lot of courage, though. It's very difficult to organize a protest, a revolution. Very, very difficult. And it was interesting because during Rob Ford's last year in office, there were a lot of people in the international community who said, why aren't you guys on the streets? Like, this is ridiculous. You have a corrupt mayor. Why aren't you doing more? And I would push back and say, no, people are doing things in different ways. It doesn't always look like a bunch of people in a city square with their fists in the air. And there actually was a group of people who lined up outside of his office. But absolutely, I think there's always that fear of protest because a lot's on the line. But when you're ready to die for what you're fighting for, and we see that in many countries around the world, I think it's vital.
Thank you.
Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for the
Hi.
talk.
Yeah.
You showed Kathleen Wynne at the end, and I've been thinking about this throughout your presentation. What are the dangers of a bad fail in a social media effort? Because if you look at, we were just talking about this in one of my classes, Barack Obama's relative success in the US in reaching out to younger demographics through social media. But then you've got Stephen Harper's 24/7 on YouTube, which has, I think, 2,000 followers and 20 or some odd in Quebec. I mean, it's really quite a disaster.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to hurt him, but you could see this really backing up on somebody else who went big in the social media area. So just wondering what your thoughts are on the risks of trying to go big in social media, especially during an election campaign.
It's a great question. So I think most politicians or to be fair, political administrations and their campaign teams are risk adverse. They don't want to do anything risky. There's too much to lose. And you see the underdog candidates who have nothing to lose usually trying out these new types of opportunities and applications. But I think at the very least, as a digital strategist, worst comes to worst, you can say, hey, we were trying to connect with younger voters and new technology. We are experimenting, and we're not scared to fail. And sometimes you fail, and actually embracing failure is an opportunity to learn. But that takes a campaign and a candidate who's very self-aware to be able to do that. And that's where I applaud Kathleen Wynne. Yeah, so Reddit was disappointed. Most people don't even know what Reddit is. So the fact that she was willing, to take questions. And what's really interesting is one of the women who worked on Kathleen Wynne's Reddit Ask Me Anything then worked on David Sognaki's, which was much better. So she was able to learn from that experience, work on David Sognaki's, which was a very successful one. So yeah, there are going to be mistakes. And I think that's one of the hard things about social media is we're learning as we go. But I also think that voters like a bit of vulnerability in their candidates. And that's something that candidates don't want to show. So maybe social media lets us get there. I guess the ultimate question is, how much can you afford to lose? Yeah.
Hi. Thanks so much for your talk. I think I just wanted to follow up a bit with what Chris said, because that idea of vulnerability I found really interesting in the Toronto election. So you started with Naheed Nenshi, who, in my view, he's really great on Twitter because he's so real. And he doesn't seem like a communications person is writing his tweets, and he takes huge risks, like responding to the trolls. So in the Toronto election, you've got Rob and Doug Ford, who are very good at connecting with people. Do you feel like Olivia Chow tried, you have the insight from that campaign, did you try and use Twitter in a way similar to Nenshi, where you took risks and allowed her to really be herself? Or looking back, do you now feel like maybe there was room to do that more, or was it just not her personality? Just how do you think you used it, and did you do the Nenshi thing, or did you do the traditional thing where it sort of managed?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll give you an honest answer. So Olivia, day to day, actually does her own tweets, but due to the time commitments that are involved on a political campaign, like all the debates, all the debate prep, the media interviews, she worked, there were two of us who supported her on tweets. And as the campaign got busier and busier, we would send out tweets that were more kind of like promoting events and retweeting things, working with her. And that was a bit of a sacrifice because Olivia's tweets are always the best. They're always better than anything I can suggest or anyone on the campaign can, because they're authentic and you can tell it's in her voice. But the question you have to ask yourself is, the candidate only has so much time, and there's no question all the candidates would agree Olivia was the hardest working candidate, but where do you want her spending her time, answering all those tweets? And Nenshi's really the only one who does it. Like I would argue he's really one of the only ones in the world who actually spends that time up late at night going through all those tweets. And maybe he's even a bit obsessive about it, but I love it. It makes him really unique and very accessible. But on our campaign, we didn't have that time, so we had to strike a balance. Hands down, we knew that Olivia was sending more tweets and responding than the other candidates. But yeah, Nenshi's on another level, and I think it actually takes someone one day I hope to be a candidate, and I would never give that up because of my background. And I think it's really candidate driven, but there's just not enough hours in the day, unfortunately. And I also think 2010 was a different election for Nenshi with Twitter, and he was ahead of his time, and that really helped him.
I have a quick question for you. We had John Lassinger actually come and speak
yes, that's my
to
boss.
my students, my research students, how we use research and politics, qualitative and quantitative, and I teach over in the School of Media Studies. But I have a question for you. Would you say that, and I know this is kind of probably inside baseball, but social media, digital media, it's an emerging technology, and you're right, the older people, like the over 40s, are the ones that go out and actually mark the ballot on election day. But would you say that Olivia's campaign was partially, in part, undone by social media, in particular, Kinsella's tweets? Do you think that helped her take a hit, or that caused her to take a hit?
Yeah, so this is just reference to one of the other campaigns, someone who had worked on the Ford campaign and then worked on George Nahouri's campaign, who was always kind of, I think, stirring the pot on Twitter. We also dealt with a lot of racism and sexism, as well as fake accounts and trolls. And as someone who managed Olivia's accounts, I actually became numb to some of the hate speech that she was dealing with. I don't think so. I think there's many factors as we do a postmortem to figure out why Olivia didn't win the election. But I think that social media only helped her. I think though that all the campaigns are using the social media tools to both defend and attack. And you're going to see that. So you're going to see online, your candidate and your campaign staff are going to take some hits. I think it's best just not to be sucked in by them, and to help journalists also not get sucked in by those frames. So I don't think that had much of an impact. I think that this was an unusual election. We had a provincial election, we had a by-election, we had a crack video, we had rehab, we had a tumor, we had a switcheroo. Like, it was an unreal election, and I think on top of that there were many factors, including transit strategy and people voting for who they thought could take Ford out and the role of polls. So yeah, but I don't think that had much of an impact, best I can see.
Can I just ask one more question?
Sure.
Just about what you just said about the role of polls, because the first thing that came to mind when you showed the social media success of Olivia's campaign was the fact that she was really taking on water from August on in traditional media coverage. And even in something like The Star, which was normally friendly, was just slowly shifting over to Tory.
Yeah.
And it seemed like polling was driving that to a large extent. It wasn't actually substantive policy discussion. There was actually a lot of criticism. So what role do you see polling play, and how do you get around this when you're doing social media strategy now, when you get the constant kind of negative polling information?
Yeah, it's really tough. I'm not sure I know the answer to that. I think in this election, voters were obsessed with the polls because of the fear of Ford, or in this case, Fords, plural. And I think that I read a really great article, which is, we look to the bestsellers in novels to determine what we're going to read, and we look to the top movies to determine what we're going to see, and some people look to the polls to decide who they want to vote for. That's not how I cast my ballot, but some people want to know that they're doing the right thing. And I think early in the campaign, we were hoping we were going to be front of the polls, and people would say, oh, I'm going to vote for the front runner, and it's going to be Olivia. And that shifted, and that was the challenge for us. It's really, really tricky. Olivia was the only major candidate to support ranked balloting, and I think ranked balloting would actually shift this poll issue, because if you could vote for who you wanted to and rank those votes, and you knew that vote would matter, I think people would vote differently. So I think to actually address the poll issue, which is not going to go away. I mean, look at the popularity and rise of Nate Silver and the 308 blog. I think it's only going to get bigger and more data-driven, but we have to actually push for electoral reform. It's not a sexy topic. There are people who even want ranked balloting and didn't vote for Olivia, which makes no sense. She's the only candidate supporting it. But people are scared, right? Yeah. Really scared. So.
Okay, well, thank you so much for this great talk, and we invite everyone to stick around.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.